Have you ever wondered how much control you really have over your emotions? It's a question that has puzzled philosophers, psychologists, and everyday people for centuries. Emotional control, or the ability to manage and direct our feelings, is a crucial aspect of human life that impacts everything from our relationships to our professional success and even our overall well-being. Emotions are often seen as uncontrollable forces that surge within us, dictating our reactions and behaviors. However, what if I told you that we have more power over our feelings than we might think? This is not a New Age concept, but the cornerstone of an ancient philosophy called Stoicism. Stoics believe that while we may not control the events that happen to us, we can certainly control our reactions to them. Consider an individual who manages to maintain a calm demeanor during a high-stress situation. While chaos swirls around them, they remain poised and collected, their inner tranquility undisturbed. Their secret? They understand that they cannot control the external world, but they can control their internal world. Their emotions are not slaves to the situation, but tools that they can master and direct. This is the power of Stoic principles, the power of emotional control. It's about shifting our focus from what's happening around us to what's happening within us. It's about realizing that our emotions are not something that just happen to us. They're something we can consciously shape and direct. In essence, we hold the reins of our emotional state. We can choose to let our emotions run wild, or we can choose to harness them, to guide them, to use them to our advantage. It's about understanding that the real battlefield is not out there in the world, but in here, within our minds. Imagine if you could harness this power, the power of emotional control, and apply it to your own life. Imagine the tranquility, the resilience, the freedom you could experience. But how, you might ask? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the principles of Stoicism and how they can be applied to our everyday lives. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, holds the key to this power. Originating from the minds of great thinkers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism is a philosophy that emphasizes emotional resilience and virtue as the highest forms of good. It's a philosophy rooted not in the avoidance of life's hardships, but in the acceptance of them and the recognition that our reactions, not our circumstances, define our reality. At its core, Stoicism teaches us to differentiate between what's within our control and what's not. It tells us to accept the unpredictability of life, to embrace the ebb and flow of fortune, and to find strength in our responses to these external events. It's about maintaining our inner peace, no matter how chaotic the world outside may be. To illustrate this principle, let's look at the life of Epictetus. Born into slavery, Epictetus faced adversity from the very start, yet he didn't let his circumstances define him. Instead, he used them to form the foundation of his philosophy. When he gained his freedom, Epictetus didn't harbor resentment or bitterness for his past. He recognized that while he couldn't control his birth into slavery, he could control his response to it. He chose not to let his past disturb his inner peace, instead using his experiences to teach others about the power of emotional resilience. Epictetus' story is a testament to the principles of Stoicism. It shows us that our circumstances, no matter how challenging, don't have to dictate our emotional state. We have the power to choose our reactions, to maintain our inner peace, and to find strength in adversity. These principles of Stoicism don't just apply to grand tales of philosophers and emperors, but to our everyday lives. Whether we're dealing with traffic jams or job losses, we can apply Stoicism's teachings to remain composed and resilient, to accept what we cannot change, and to focus on what we can control. This is the power of Stoicism, the power to remain calm in the face of adversity and to accept things as they are. But how can we apply these principles in our daily lives? Well, let's dive in. The first step to applying Stoicism is embracing mindfulness. We often find our minds wandering to past regrets or future anxieties, but Stoicism asks us to remain anchored in the present moment. This doesn't mean ignoring the past or future, but rather acknowledging them without letting them control our emotional state. Remember, the present is the only time within our control. Next, we focus on the things within our reach. Stoicism teaches us about the dichotomy of control, the understanding that some things are up to us and others are not. It's about recognizing that our emotions, desires, and actions are within our control, while everything else, the weather, the traffic, other people's opinions, are not. By concentrating on what we can influence, we can reduce unnecessary stress and anxiety. Then there's acceptance. Stoicism encourages us to accept what we cannot control. This can be one of the hardest aspects to practice, but also one of the most liberating. When we accept the uncontrollable, we free ourselves from the burden of worry and frustration. Remember, it's not events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about them. Now let's consider a real-life example. Meet John, a modern-day individual who practices Stoicism. John is a busy professional, often swamped with deadlines and demanding clients. But instead of letting stress rule his life, he applies Stoic principles. When a client becomes demanding, he doesn't let it affect him emotionally. He focuses on his response, which is within his control, rather than the client's behavior, which is not. When faced with a tight deadline, he remains in the present, doing his best work without worrying about the future outcome. John has found that Stoicism not only helps him manage stress, but also maintain emotional balance in his hectic life. In essence, Stoicism is more than just a philosophy. It's a practical tool for managing life's ups and downs. It's about maintaining emotional control, focusing on what's important and letting go of the rest. Remember, Stoicism is not just a philosophy, it's a way of life. So, what have we learned today? We've delved into the incredible might of emotional control, understanding its profound implications on our lives. We've explored the ancient philosophy of Stoicism, a school of thought that emphasizes the attainment of virtue through the control of one's emotions, regardless of external circumstances. We've discovered that Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions, but rather it's about understanding and managing them, turning potential obstacles into opportunities for growth and self-improvement. We've also looked at how we can apply these principles to our everyday lives, turning each day into a practice of self-mastery and inner peace. By adopting a Stoic mindset, we can become more resilient, more content, and ultimately more in control of our lives. We can transform every challenge into a teaching moment, every setback into a stepping stone. Remember, you hold the power over your emotions. With the principles of Stoicism, you can harness this power and lead a more peaceful and balanced life.